Thank you so much, Francis. What we're going to do is have the Del Sol present about 15 minutes of music a little bit after a brief introduction. I'd like to start with just a little thought experiment as they're getting set up. Here are two different performance situations, and I'd like you all to think about which one went off flawlessly in performance and which one had a few glitches. On one end of the spectrum, we have the small scale. It's the Chicago Symphony's new music series called Music Now, which I curate as being the composer in residence there. I live in San Francisco, but I go to Chicago quite a bit. It's a solo saxophone piece that I thought would be an interesting way to open this concert, not by having it on the stage, but by having a wireless microphone, having the saxophonist wander among the audience with a spotlight following him. That's on one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum is a much larger and more complicated situation. You have the New World Symphony in Miami, their new Frank Gehry space with 12 robotic cameras following everybody's breath or bow stroke. You have a project called Mercury Soul, which I run out of San Francisco, that brings classical music into alternative venues to new ears and eyes. And as opposed to being a seated event, the audience flows in and out like an ocean and the changing of the tides, with some little tide pools of people hanging out here, some hanging out there, music happening the entire night. You wouldn't be wrong in thinking that probably the latter event was the one that might have had a few glitches. In fact, the New World Symphony event was amazing. Mercury Soul in Miami was incredible. We had about 1,400 people show up and not a glitch in the entire show. The solo saxophone piece ran into some problems when the saxophone player, right before the concert, was backing up against something like this, and his wireless mic got set to the wrong channel or something that was just an operator error. And so there was a little bit of scrambling going on while he started to play and we couldn't hear him, and it actually worked out beautifully. They figured it out. But the example illustrates that no matter what scale, the small or the large scale, there are always special challenges and opportunities to bringing art to new ears in new ways. And when I say new ways, I'm talking primarily about using some of the tools we have in the digital age to not only inform the art itself, but the presentation of the art in new spaces, to get information to audiences in new ways. And that's what I would like to touch on today. First, we're going to hear a brief little drive-by shooting by the Del Sol Quartet, which is approaching its 20-year anniversary. They've been doing innovative things in San Francisco and all over the world for that time period. They have been on my radar, and I've been on their radar for many years, and it was only the past year where the Chamber Music America awarded us a grant to work together, and the basic idea was to create some pieces that would work in concert halls, but also in alternative venues where you have things like amplification options, you have crowds that are flowing around fluidly. And so the work in progress is called Bagatelles for String Quartet and Electronica. And it is really hot off the press. The parts were put on their stands like last week, and so y'all are really hearing something that nobody else has heard. They're also going to play, after the two movements extracted from my piece Bagatelles, they're going to play a third and final piece by a wonderful composer named Elena Katz-Chernin called Fast Blue Village. And Elena is a wonderful person and also a great example of the kind of cross-cultural artist working today. She's from Uzbekistan, but lives in Australia and works all over. So the Del Sol Quartet has some wonderful materials out there in the hallway, but if, like me, paper is a little too heavy for you, check them out. DelSolQuartet.com is definitely the place you can find them. So we have Kate Stenberg, Charlton Lee, Rick Shinozaki, and Catherine Bates-Williams.
Thank you.